I don't know if it's a fantasy committee or fantasy Kumite. It definitely is spelled like Kumite. Steve, how's it going? Can you clarify this for us?
Yeah. It's the fantasy Kumite.
Kumite.
Yeah.
Nice.
So anyone that might be familiar with Bloodsport, we kind of modeled it after that movie. It's in that movie, there's a bunch of guys that come from all over the world. There's some of the top martial artists, and they go in a no-holds-barred contest to the death sometimes. And so it's just 40 of some of the best fantasy players from around the country, and we've organized into a big league with a $6,000 pot, and we have a good time with it.
It's funny, Steve, you mentioned that it's a bunch of guys from around the country, the best players, but yet Jeff and we're local here, and we've never been invited to this league.
Yeah. Well, we've been trying for a couple of years to try to get some exposure to maybe some radio shows or even some celebrities. We were in talks. We had a guy that was in another celebrity league with Michael Rappaport, and we were trying to get Michael Rappaport into the league. We've been trying to get some people in from other sources than just regular Joes. So maybe we can do that with you guys next year. We're pretty full up right now.
I think one of the tricks of promotion is building your brand. And Steve, one piece of advice: you've got to change some of these team names if you really want. If you really want to get the word out.
Yeah. I've thought about that some. You guys like to do that's part of the fantasy game, I think, is guys really like to let loose with their names. So that's a tough one. We'll have to figure that one out.
The names are definitely interesting. I used to have a business that I would print off customizable draft boards for leagues. And they could get their league on these big draft boards with the stickers and everything. And I sometimes would also be able to print out the team names from the league. And some of them, I'm like, oh gosh, I cannot even show anybody what I feel bad even printing some of these. But go ahead, Steve, and tell us the basis of the league. It's a 10-team league. Or it's it's a 10-team league, but there's 4 of them. So how shallow is it, basically?
Well, it's a 40-man league that plays just like a 10-team league. We're in 4 different conferences of 10 teams. Mm-hmm. Each conference has 2 divisions in it, 5 teams in each division, and then you'll play each team in your division twice, and then you'll play 4 of the other 5 teams that are in your conference once, and everybody plays that same balanced schedule. We had a couple years at the beginning where we played some intra-divisional games, and we sort of had some weeks where everybody just hodgepodged and played around, but we've really refined it down to where it's tough and it's balanced, and guys are scrapping it out, and by the end of the season, for the past 3 or 4 years, we've really shown that the guys that get to the end and come out at the top, for the most part, are the best teams in the league. But with it being head-to-head, it leaves us that little wiggle room. So there's always a guy that can keep fighting, keep scrapping. He might not be the best team in the league, but he might make it to 3rd or something like that.
I love how Steve is acting like this league. Like, you can tell he loves this league, Jeff, because he's using clawing, scratching.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Grinding.
I mean, they're there in the trenches.
Right.
Yeah.
Fighting.
We worked hard. We had a 10-team ESPN league we ran for about 8 years. And then I just really, wanted to figure out a way to make it a bigger pop, to have a bigger pool. And so I came up with this idea of this 40-team league that played like a 10-team league. Mm-hmm. And we kept refining the rules and the settings and really getting things down to where it is just super duper balanced. And so far to the fact that this will be our 7th season. Last year and the 6th year was the first time I made the playoffs. And, I mean, I'm not a fantasy genius, but it is my league, and I do work hard, and I halfway know what I'm doing, but it's just so tough.
David, I think we can all agree, and Steve, you would agree with this as well. You don't just wake up in the morning and think of a creative fantasy football team name based on Clinton Dix, okay? It's very difficult. A lot of hard work goes into this.
Right.
You mentioned, Steve, this is 40 players from around the country. So the first question in my mind is, who are these 40 people? Is there any sort of anonymity to it, or do you all know each other?
Yeah, we started off the first year. I probably got maybe 20 to 25 people that I knew pretty well, and then relied on them to bring in 15 more people. As the years have gone on, I think we're probably under 20 people now that I really know well, and the rest are just, friends of friends, and there's a little more anonymity there. I try to make good contacts, get phone numbers, talk to people, get Facebook links, to make sure these are real people. People aren't fielding multiple teams or stuff like that. But yeah, so at this point, we've got teams from Oregon, California, Texas, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Maryland. I'm sure I'm missing a state or two.
You probably are, Steve, to be honest.
Sounds like you're saying from all over the country.
Yeah. You've got 4 divisions or 4 leagues, basically, in this big league. It's almost like a super league. Does that mean and 10 teams in each one, does that mean there are 4 Aaron Rodgers, just to clear this up? There's like 4 Aaron Rodgers in the league, right?
That's right, yeah. And so those guys don't see each other until the playoffs.
Right.
And so there is that possibility that creeps up. But, over the years, it has rarely been a major issue. A lot of times it's a non-issue. Like, it amazes me at how many times, it doesn't even come up that guys have, however the math works out, it's just that many combinations can be out there. We also have a really flexible lineup that you can submit. There's lots of different ways to come up with your team, so that helps. But then even when it does come up, you might have the same quarterback, or maybe you've got the same running back and a wide receiver. I really like that when you get down to the end of the playoffs, because that really shows who's got the depth, who's really got the best team. I mean, he's got your same quarterback, so what do you have besides that? That really lets you know who's there. So
I feel like it's going to be a good year for the team who has found a way to use Danny Woodhead in a perverted way.
Jeff is stuck on these.
Every question of mine will begin with this, because you've got to see some of these team names. It's amazing. I'd never thought that Mike Ditka could be disrespected in this way.
If you will click on that Danny Woodhead name.
I will not.
Well, okay.
I'm kidding. Okay.
There's an awesome song there. We made some songs, and if you have the right web browser, sometimes they restrict you, but if you have your audio up in the right web browser, you can hear these songs. And a lot of these teams have some pretty creative songs there. The Morning Woodheads do, and
there it was.
That's a pretty neat.
Steve, as far as the roster size, you've got 9 starters, 7 bench, and 1 you can put on IR. My question is this: it's a 10-team league. Have you thought about expanding to 12 teams? Because 10 teams is pretty shallow.
It is pretty shallow.
Or do you just want everyone to have a good time and be able to draft like superstars?
Well, it's not necessarily like superstars. What I like about it is, with the 10-team versus the 12, is we use a blind bid waiver system that goes to free agent free-for-all all the way through the rest of the week, as far as how we deal with waivers. And it leaves players to work with, at least for the first 6 weeks or so.
Sure.
And there's a lot of competition there. That's the thing. With 12 teams, it would almost get so burdensome. As competitive as these guys are, as hard as everybody's working, I mean, it would become so much more of a grind than it already is, and it begin to lose a little fun, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Steve, when is draft weekend for you? And is it going to be a live draft? Because how awesome would that be if you had 40 gentlemen from around the country all together in the same place?
Yeah, we run. It's Sunday, August 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do it the weekend before Labor Day weekend every year, and we run drafts at Eastern Time, 1, 3, 5, and 10, because we've got some guys on the West Coast and some other people that need a late draft, and so it's an all-day affair for me, and we run them all separately. And the cool thing is the draft room's open, so guys that pull a late draft that year, they can get in the draft room and watch the early drafts and watch them go down and comment, and it becomes a 40-man sort of all-day. A lot of people spend all day in there checking in on the drafts and seeing what's going on. So,
all right, Steve, we really appreciate you joining us. Is there a website where people could go if they want to check out some of these amazing team names as well?
Sure. We run our league off of myfantasyleague.com, and if you do a team search on there for Kumite, that's Kumite.
Yeah.
Also, I can be reached at fantasykumite@gmail.com.
Awesome. Awesome, Steve.
So again,
Here'd be another piece of advice. Register fantasykumite.com and use it to forward to your address. We do this for our home league. It's the Shake and Bake League, and that way you can just go to that website and it immediately forwards it to that. It's like $5.
Cool.
It's like $5 a year.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve, so much for joining us, a fellow Nashville guy as well. So we appreciate you coming on, and best of luck to you this year. Take down the Fantasy Kumite title, sir.